Ngok, and today I'm finally doing my May wrap up. I actually had a pretty good reading month, both in terms of the number of books that I read and in terms of the star ratings I gave to the books. The first book that I finished was actually If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo, and I listened to this on Audible. I have been meaning to read this book for such a very long time, and I loved it just as much as I thought I would. It's about a girl who starts afresh at a new school, and she makes all these wonderful new friends, becomes really popular, and falls for one of the guys there who is just so sweet. But the thing is, she actually started off life as a boy, and she doesn't know how to tell this new guy without destroying everything that she's built up. It was a really powerful and really moving read, and it's actually written by a transgender author herself, which I think is really important that these sort of books are written from an own voice's perspective, because otherwise how could you truly understand the emotions that a transgender person is going through unless you've gone through it yourself. Because of the fact that it was own voices, I think it just added that little extra depth to the story and the characters. Initially, I didn't really enjoy how open-ended the book was, but then I realized that the book was never really about finding closure for the romance. It was about Amanda finding acceptance for herself and learning how to be who she was, you know, fearlessly. And I think that that was the message of the book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's a book that everyone should read because we should be able to learn how to put ourselves in other people's shoes. I mean, it's hard enough as it is finding someone that you like who actually likes you back in return, but then to have to overcome this extra obstacle, I just can't fathom how difficult it must be. So I thank Meredith Russo for writing this book and for giving us an insight into what transgender people have to face every day. Next, I buddy read Night Owls by Jen Bennett with Tasha from Fairy Drugs. I read this book last year and absolutely loved it, and I honestly loved it just as much, if not more, than the first time. The story is about 2 teenagers. The narrator is Bex, and she's an artist, but she enjoys drawing anatomy and she really wants to draw for medical textbooks. One night while she's waiting for the night owl, which is the late night bus, she runs into a guy named Jack, and they have instant chemistry until she realizes that he is actually secretly the most wanted vandal in all of the city, and then the story just progresses from there. Jen Bennett has a way of writing banter that is just so incredible. I just love how realistic the romance is. I recognize so much of what I have been through in these characters. I just don't know how to describe this book to you, except that every time that you think it's going to fall into a contemporary trope, it pulls back and then does something just completely unexpected, and it just makes me want to high five Jen Bennett every single time. One of the reasons why this book is one of my favorites isn't just because it's an adorable contemporary. It has so many lessons behind it. There's family, there's mental health, and I just think it is such a wonderful and complex book. Given the fact that it's just, what, 300 pages or so, there's so much that goes on in here, and for this reason I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. So straight after I finished Night Owls, I picked up Jen Bennett's new book, which is called Alex Approximately, and this is definitely hands down one of my favorite books of this year. Let's just get that out of the way. It was 100% a 5 out of 5 stars. The story is about a girl named Bailey who has met a guy named Alex online through some sort of movie chat forum, and they're just basically big movie buffs and they talk about it all the time, and she kind of starts to develop feelings for this guy. Bailey actually moves there to be with her dad, but she doesn't tell Alex because she kind of wants to suss him out and see whether he's some sort of 60-year-old creep catfishing young girls online, which is fair enough. And she's not very successful in her investigations, but she does meet a guy named Porter at her work, and he just infuriates her like so much, but then, you know, things kind of move in a direction that she doesn't expect. I actually really enjoyed the way that this book was written, almost like a movie. Probably because it was based on the movie You've Got Mail, it does lend that sort of cinematic kind of feel to it. There's a lot of fast switching in between scenes, and there's a lot of intense drama. I loved how involved the families of the characters were in this book. I really enjoy books that have really good family dynamics. I mean, characters just don't drop out of the sky, they come from somewhere. I also really liked that there wasn't that unnecessary contemporary tropey angst. You know, when one character, they just can't be honest, and then there's just like unnecessary angst for 3/4 of the book. Bailey and Porter were just so honest with each other. There were obviously secrets that they did keep from each other, but then they had good reason to, and it wasn't done for a very long period of time, and I just don't know how else she could have done it differently. It's a perfect book. The next book that I finished was Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. I listened to this on Audible, which was a great decision because it was narrated by Tina Fey herself, and I really enjoyed it. It was just so funny. I love Tina Fey's sense of humor in it. And Bossy Pants is basically just a memoir of how she started off at Saturday Night Live and then built up her career. I really enjoyed it, but I did find that her humor does kind of walk that fine line between being funny and then kind of like pushing into the grey area of almost kind of being offensive. Even though it was a really enjoyable read or listen, I guess, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars because it wasn't memorable to me, and I don't know that I came out of the reading experience a better person or having learned more than I did when I started it. The final book that I read in the month of May was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which is here, and I'm sorry, I can't be bothered moving all of my tidbits to bring it out. This is obviously a reread for me. I read it last year when it came out, and because Lord of Shadows was coming out, I decided to pick up Lady Midnight and reread it again. And I'm so glad that I did because there are so many things that I had actually forgotten. I actually enjoyed it more with the reread than with my initial read of it because I think in retrospect, now that I'm older, a lot of the things that bothered me don't bother me as much because I feel like I understand the reason why the characters did what they did a lot better. I don't know if that makes any sense. One of the things that I just say again and again, I think Cassandra Clare does so well is the character development. There are so many characters in our Shadowhunter world, but despite the fact that some of them appear in a number of books and then some of them only appear in a few, I can probably recite to you all of the characters and what their role was in the story because she just builds them up that well. There are no wallflower characters. There are no characters that are just there to fill up the bulk of the stories, and I just think it's incredible how she builds everything up, and the world that she's built as well is just so intricate. I loved the friendships in this book, particularly Christina and Emma's friendship. I think female-female friendships aren't often done very well. We often see females being put up against each other, not only in real life, but also in books. And I think Cassandra Clare just does the friendship between Emma and Christina so well. And now that I'm rereading Lady Midnight in the context of our current sort of political environment, the references to our society at the moment, it just mind blows me like how much it reflects our current society, and especially in Lord of Shadows, which I'll talk about more in my June wrap up. It's just some of the things are so on point, I just can't even deal. I also really enjoyed the pop culture references. I think there's a scene where they're arguing about which Avenger is the hottest, and I just found it hilarious. I also just realized I went through a whole review of Lady Midnight without talking about what it is, but I'm going to assume that most of you have the general gist of it and that if you know about Lady Midnight, you've read the other books. But in a nutshell, Lady Midnight focuses on two characters, Emma and Julian, who were children in the Mortal Instruments. If you have read the Mortal Instruments, you will know that somebody close to one of these characters died. The deaths were passed off as being due to the villain in the Mortal Instruments series. I'm like trying not to spoil any of this series in case people haven't read it yet. Emma doesn't believe that these characters were killed by this particular villain, and for 5 years everything has been quite nice and peaceful and nothing's going on, but then we start to see some unusual deaths crop up that resemble the way that these two characters died in the Mortal Instruments. So Lady Midnight is the beginning of a trilogy where Emma and Julian are investigating it, and I'm not going to go into it in any more detail. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars this time. So guys, that is it for my May wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have any thoughts on them, leave them in the comments below. I hope you're all having a great day, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye now!